Excuse me, I don't quite understand you. Propaganda and banter and all of this empty chatter. And amidst these amens, hallelujahs and shucking jiving, I see a lot of hypocrites and hyper criticizing. Mr. LeClay, my mama sold me up the river for some rocks, and daddy told me I was nothing but a problem. Now here you come telling me I'm a low down dirty sinner, and you got the nerve to wonder why I'm in these streets robbing. Well, gon' get back, man, and gon' get back, man. I don't need to be judged by you and all of your whack friends. Ain't gluttony a sin while you staring at my gin. Where I'm from, we don't pretend. We know we ain't getting in. Now the world don't trust me, and these streets done crush me. Thought you were known for love, but you just love to judge me. Truth is, ironically, you need me around, though. Cause otherwise you got nobody else to look down on.
Dear Mr. Christian, I know you're on a mission. I know you say the answer to my problem is religion. I know I'm supposed to change the way I live and stop sinning, but I'd appreciate it if you take some time to listen. Dear Mr. Christian, I know you're on a mission. I know you say the answer to my problem is religion. I know I'm supposed to change the way I live and stop sinning, but I'd appreciate it if you take some time to listen.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Big J Britt, and the JTC, as always, is on the move. Listen, from my lips to your ears, what's up, everybody? Hope you're having a blessed day. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you for joining me. This is Sports Talk with a faith twist. If you've been watching the last couple of videos I've been posting, which has been, coming pretty hot and heavy in the last couple of days, I've been talking about mental warfare, the mental game, how important that is. And I also was focusing on something that's near and dear to my heart, I guess, because of the fact that I'm an Eagles fan, 6-1, best record in NFL. Not bragging, not saying nothing. It's been long overdue, and it feels good. We've been through a lot, so stop hating, show some respect. Anyway, so I'm focusing on Nelson Agholor. So anybody who knows about where the Eagles were at, Chip Kelly came in, and they had what was supposed to be the most explosive offense in the NFL. They went from a 4-12 team to 10-6, 4-12 with Andy Reid. Same exact team, 10-6, because they had Michael Vick, quarterback, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin. They had LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. They had speed everywhere, and in a fast-paced offense, that's good. So fast forward, you get rid of Deshaun Jackson because Chip Kelly got rid of everybody. Deshaun Jackson was one of the first to go. And then you turn around and Jeremy Maclin became the man. Now, Jeremy Maclin, let me pull it up. This is at a bad angle. All right. So Jeremy Maclin, he came into the league 2009. Okay, so 56 receptions, 70 receptions 2010, 63 in 2011, 69 in 2012. He didn't play in 2013. Then he had 85 in 2014, and that was his last year with the Eagles. So you see the difference between being a number 2 guy and number 1 guy. So he had 85, and in his first year with the Chiefs, he had 87. But his last year with the Eagles, the year that kind of mattered to what I'm working towards here, is he had 85 receptions for 1,318 yards, 1,318 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. Okay? So that next offseason, Eagles offer him a contract. Kansas City, where Andy Reid is at, also offers him a contract. Offers him a little more money. Mind you, he's from Missouri, so he's going back home to his home state. He's going back to the coach who drafted him, and Andy Reid, and he's getting more money. There was no reason to stay in Philly. It's completely understood. So what do the Eagles do? They go into the draft. And they pick up a young receiver at a USC, named Nelson Agholor. Now, his first couple years, he didn't really do. He had 18 receptions his first season. Then he had 56 receptions in his second year for 918 yards and 6 touchdowns. And his last season with USC, he had 104 receptions for 1,313 yards and 12 touchdowns. So what did they see? They saw a young, fast receiver who just caught 100 passes, and the heir apparent to Jeremy Maclin. Now, we're not sitting here saying Jeremy Maclin was Terrell Owens or Calvin Johnson or Jerry Rice. But when you're building a team and you get rid of somebody, Jeremy Maclin was your number one receiver. And then he walked away. So you need to try to find his replacement. So within the last 2 years at this time, you lost to Deshaun Jackson, which was your deep threat, and you lost Jeremy Maclin, which was your possession guy underneath. So you lost your two most important receivers and your best receivers basically 2 years in a row. So then you turn around, and now Nelson Agholor goes from college. Now, I tell people all the time, the college game, reason people don't translate is you got to remember, not everybody who plays college ball goes to pro. A small percentage goes pro. Most of them go on to be doctors, veterinarians, lawyers, whatever they end up being, car salesmen, whatever. So when you're playing against guys who aren't at the professional level, it's easier to play against them. So hence Tim Tebow busted records in college, could never shake the cobwebs or whatever off you want to call it in the pro level. Amazing talent, great kid. I mean, he had a strong arm. He just wasn't accurate. Couldn't read. Basically, he was a great college quarterback, but couldn't translate it into the pros. So a lot of the times that happens. A lot of people look at, they're bust. And a lot of times systems, too. You got to keep in mind, we'll never know. But if you put Tom Brady on another team, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? We'll never know. Is it because of Bill Belichick, or is it because Tom Brady's that good? I mean, you can look at his work and say he's that good, but also you can look at other players, a la Matt Castle, who came in and played well with Bill Belichick when Tom Brady got hurt, went on and became a nobody because he just wasn't that good. Sometimes it's a system. So sometimes you get blessed to be in the right system. Sometimes you get, cursed to be in the wrong system. So Nelson Agholor gets drafted. 2015 comes in and right away has to be the number 2 receiver behind Jordan Matthews. Now, Jordan Matthews is already not a good number 1. So you're looking at Nelson Agholor like, all right, man, we're relying on this kid. We're told he's supposed to be like Jeremy Maclin. So if we get 80 receptions and 1,300 yards again, we're straight, because that'll make up for where Jordan Matthews lacks. But as we know, Nelson Agholor had only 23 receptions for 283 yards and 1 touchdown. His first year, 2015. Even his second year, 2016, 36 receptions, 365 yards, 2 touchdowns. So what I'm about to say next is only if you're really watching the games. The stats tell one thing. If you saw the kid's eyes, how he was playing, how he was running his routes, he was not on the field. He was in his own head. He was, I don't want to say scared, but the moment was too big for him. He was not, like, when you walk into a situation and you're thrown into, like, you're drafted, you're expected to maybe come up slowly, be like the 3rd, maybe 4th option, learn the playbook, learn the systems, learn all this stuff. But he was thrown right into it. And I don't think he was ever ready for that. He was thrown right into, because your number 1 and number 2 receivers play against great cornerbacks. Even your guys that are number 2, like you go play Seattle, sometimes they just play sides of the field. So you may be the number 2, but you're still going to get the Richard Sherman defense because you lined up on his side. So you're looking at Richard Sherman, who just a couple years ago you watched in the Super Bowl while you're sitting in USC in college, and you're like, how am I supposed to beat this guy? So already you're in your own head. You could see it in his eyes, the way he was doing. And one of the biggest things, if you remember, against Seattle, actually. And there's a picture here with Richard Sherman actually defending him. I don't remember the exact day. This article was written by Josh Pono on PhillyMag.com on November 21st, 2016. But anyway, the big thing was, it was a whole laundry list of stuff that Agholor was doing wrong. But on this particular day, when you line up as a receiver, you always look over to the ref to get the okay that you're at the right spot. You're covering the line. And in this particular play, you can look at the refs, and you also can look over at your coaches. In this particular play, Agholor was lined up, and Greg Lewis was seen waving to him, like he was trying to get him to move back. He was trying to, get move up to the line of scrimmage because he needed to cover the line of scrimmage. But he never looked. He was too busy looking at the defenders, trying to figure out what he was doing. Now, granted, you're supposed to look at the coverage, visualize what you're going to do 100%, which is what he said he was trying to do. But the first thing you do, if you watch, I don't care if you're the greatest receiver in the world or the fourth receiver on the team, you always look over to the ref and you check with them and make sure you're lined up, and the ref will give you the nod, whatever the ref decides to give you. And especially if your coaches are right there, you look at them too, make sure you're good. He never looked up. That's a mental error. And then Zach Ertz went on to catch a 57-yard touchdown, which would have gave them a 14-13 lead against Seattle. And this is when Seattle was a juggernaut. And in turn, they got called back. They punted the ball 2 plays later, and he basically lost them the game because then Seattle marched down the field, went up by 2 scores, and Philly never came back. And he lost the locker room. Jordan Matthews went on to say the penalty was inexcusable. Doug Peterson labeled it a momentum changer. Zach Ertz, I guess, was quoted on indirectly referencing Nelson Agholor also cost him a touchdown catch last season against Washington because of an illegal formation penalty. So right there you got 2 players, one of which you directly affected, and the head coach. So now not only are you in your own head, not only are you being overwhelmed by the moment, now your players are starting to turn. Your guys in the locker room are starting to turn on you. So you got all this piling up on you. And I don't have the article written or pulled up here, but you remember when he finally broke and he finally admitted that he was having mental issues. He was having mental problems. It was in his head. And he said he was going to go start seeing somebody, talking to people. And even Doug Peterson gave him a mental day. I'm freaking out because I'm a diehard fan. And I'm looking at it as in, like, why are we continuing to put him on the field when he drops everything? I mean, if you remember, he was dropping everything. It would hit him right in the hands, drop, lining up on the wrong spot, offsides, illegal formation, not running the right routes, not running the route at all, catching an open or dropping an open pass against Detroit when they were driving down the field. Carson Wentz threw it up to him, and he let Slay, didn't even fight for it, let Slay intercept it. He just saw no fight, no willingness to play on the team, and it was frustrating. And then if you think about it from his side, he's already overwhelmed. And now the fans are turning on you, your players are turning on you, even your coach is starting to turn on you. But he didn't all the way break. He finally admitted that something wasn't right. So fast forward to the off season between the 16 and 17 season. They go out. They sign Torrey Smith from San Francisco. They sign Alshon Jeffrey from Chicago. Zach Ertz is now a household name, playing way better than he was a couple years ago. Now, Agholor doesn't have to be the number 1 or the number 2. Now, you're sitting here going into it thinking Jordan Matthews is going to be your slot, which is his natural position. What does Philly do? They trade Matthews to Buffalo. And now you're like, what are you doing? So that's going to bump Agholor up to the slot. Why in the world are you putting Agholor back in the lineup? We just want to wait till the offseason so you can cut him. And boy, were we wrong. They have found Nelson Agholor's spot. He is lining up in the slot and playing lights out. He already, this year, has 24 receptions for 366 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, he has more touchdowns this year through, 7 games than he has the last 2 years combined. He already has 1 more yard than he had all of last year receiving already through 7 games. So basically, not even almost halfway through the season. Actually, basically halfway through the season. And he already has more yards than he did last year. He already has 24 receptions, which is 1 more than he had his rookie year. And he's only 12 away from his receptions he had last year. So he's already crushing everything he's done before. He's well on his way to being, or not even well, he is a productive member of the Philadelphia Eagles. A team, a fan base that was ready to write him off. We can't really say the team because they obviously saw something in him because they kept him. But me as a fan, listen, I'm a die-hard sports fan, and I love my Philadelphia teams, and I take great pride in them. And when I see this guy being a detriment on the field, I wanted to start a GoFundMe account to pay his rest of his salary off and let him walk, man. Go play for somebody else. And I didn't want to wish bad on him. Listen, we've seen it all the time. People play bad for one team, they go for another team, and the next thing you know, look at Bill Belichick. He probably would have went to the Patriots and been a dynamic receiver. Luckily, Dougie P, Carson Wentz, they're working. Now it's working. And he looks phenomenal. See him catch passes one-handed now. He's comfortable. He's having fun. He's smiling. He's having a great time. He's playing the game. He's not letting it play him. Now, hopefully, he can grow and become a 2 or a 1. But if not, you know now he is a slot receiver. There are some receivers who are great in the slot. Wes Welker, great in the slot. Julian Edelman, great in the slot. Kevin Curtis, if you remember Kevin Curtis. Dante Stallworth. These receivers were great in the slot. The Eagles brought them in, tried to make them number 1 receivers. It didn't work because they were slot receivers. So maybe Agholor is a career slot receiver. There's nothing wrong with that. You could easily get 80 to 100 receptions in the slot, no problem. So this is something that we can learn from. Even though this kid had every reason to give up, even though this kid had every reason to just mail it in, the fans hated his guts, booed him every time he dropped a pass. Even his teammates were turning on him, saying, "Man, this is inexcusable." Da, da, da. He had every reason to be like, "You know what? I'm done, man. I don't want to do this no more." You can see it in his eyes that sometimes he looked like that. But whatever happened kept him pushing, and they found the spot for him. And now he is not playing well. He is thriving. I'd argue to say he's the best receiver on the team next to Zach Ertz. He has more touchdowns than any of the other receivers do. He is playing well. Great at the slot position. I look forward to seeing it. He has been a huge part of this team. And I'd argue to say he's doing better than Jordan Matthews would have done in the slot. As much as I like Jordan Matthews, and I think he would have done good in the slot, I don't know if he would have done as good as Agholor is. Agholor is burning people, catching it in open field, just running right past people because he's using his speed. He's using his talents, the God-given abilities that he has. And instead of trying to force him into a place where he's not comfortable or cannot be utilized, they put him in the place where he's supposed to be and magnified his abilities. Now, what if I told you that we serve a God who could do the same thing to you? No matter how far you've fallen, no matter what the world says about you, no matter who talks about you, no matter what you've thought, done, considered in the past, we serve a God that does not want you to be something you're not. We serve a God that does not want you to force yourself into a position that's not for you. He wants you where you're at. He wants you who you are. And he wants to magnify who he made. He doesn't want you to pretend to be something else. He doesn't want you to pretend to be somebody else. He doesn't want you to force yourself to do things to fit in. He made you exactly how he made you. I said this in other things, or, I don't think I ever posted it, but if we were made to be the same, we would all look the same, we would all sound the same, talk the same, walk the same, and it would be a boring place on earth. But we were made different. We look different. We talk different. We walk different. We think different. We act different. We have different levels of things we can do. We have things we're great at, good at, bad at. Other people's are great where we're bad. That's what makes us come together. God doesn't want you to be a square peg trying to force yourself in a round hole. He made you a round peg, so let him magnify you so you can be the greatest round peg there was. Too many times we try to force ourselves into a crowd, into something that we think we're supposed to do, into something that we think that, is good for us, but it's not. Instead, all we do is hinder ourselves because we're doing something that we're not supposed to be doing. And we wonder why we keep ending up back in, we just keep wandering around the wilderness. Why am I not getting that promotion? Why am I not progressing in life? Why am I not finding that husband, that wife? Why am I not finding this? Why am I not finding happiness? Why am I upset every day? Why am I mad every single day? Why does everything piss me off? It's because of where your mind's at. 100% it's where your mind is at. Listen, I'm preaching to the choir. The pot is calling the kettle black. But God has stirred it in me and showed me through, and I've had people in my life, and if you're still watching this, bro, you know who I'm talking about. It's funny how the world works and how God uses people in your life. I've been shown, listen, I consider myself a strong dude. I consider myself solid, and I consider myself somebody who can go to war any time of day. But I was shown that I was mentally weak because of my sensitivity and the fact that I cared about everything else too much. When you spread yourself so thin, because now, all right, think about this. You get angry about small things. This person over here cut you off. This person over here. I hate when people leave their shopping carts out in the parking lot and don't put them away. I used to get so mad about it. I get mad about it and I'd sit on it and not even realize it. But think about it. Your mind, right? You fill it. Okay? Think of it like a jar. All right? And every time you think something, you fill it. You fill the jar. All right, so now the shopping carts. Boom, bunch of shopping carts, put a bunch of stuff in the jar. We'll say jelly beans, bunch of jelly beans, angry jelly beans. All right. Then somebody, stops in the middle of the grocery aisle, and you're like, what is this person doing? How are you just going to stop? More angry jelly beans. Now we're halfway full already, and we're barely started in our day or anything. So then you go into somewhere else and you're looking for I can't find it. Why aren't these labeled better? Boom, boom, more negative, more negative. Next thing you know, your jar is completely filled with anger, negativity, and you don't mean it to be in a negative way. Like, you're just getting annoyed by things. But now you are so much filled with negativity. When you go to try to do something positive or anything, when you try to go do anything, you're already set up to be angry, because that's all you filled your head with. You stretched yourself so thin. So now when you turn around and try to speak to someone, you have an attitude and you don't even realize it. The tone of your voice is angry. So you're putting off on people anger, and people don't want to associate with you. So now you're like, whoa, why aren't you wanting to talk to me? What's going on? And then you go with me, I try to understand things too much. Sometimes you got to just be able to let stuff go. When somebody says something, does something that I don't agree with, or that I think, all right, I was misunderstood, I go and try to explain myself, and I over-explain it. You ever hear the thing where, the more you try to explain it, the more guilty you look? It's basically what it ends up being. Even though you might be completely right, you might feel you're completely right, but the other person, once they believe something, they're not hearing you anymore. So sometimes you just need to take a step back and just be like, all right. But I couldn't do that. So I kept pushing. So now I got all this anger from earlier in my head. Now I'm trying to get my point across over here. So I'm trying to, listen, this is what I'm trying to say, blah, 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 and pointing all these points out. And now I'm focused on trying to convince this person of whatever we're talking about. I'm angry about the supermarket. And meanwhile, when I come try to talk to you, guess what? I got nothing for you, because my mind is over here. My mind is over there. I'm nowhere where I'm supposed to be. So it's important what we put in our heads. I'm all over the place, and I apologize. And if you're still with me, bless your heart, because I see this is 27 minutes long. I'm long-winded. That's why this goes on YouTube, and then I share it on Facebook. You can go through it. Hopefully you watch the whole thing. But I'm going to cut it now, and I'm going to be back sharing more, because the mental thing is very important. I ended the last one with this, and I'm going to end this one with it as well, because it is very, very important. Proverbs 23, verse 7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. The Amplified Bible says, in behavior, one who manipulates. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So you think as you will be. What you put in your head, what you are thinking about, you will be. If you think everybody's out to get you, you're going to put that on people, and they're going to give you what you're putting out. So remember that. Remember that. Proverbs 23, verse 7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. What are you thinking of? What are you putting in your head? How are you feeling about yourself? How are you letting your surroundings affect you? You got to be mentally strong. The warfare every day starts here, ends here. You have to renew your mind constantly throughout the day. You can't just think at the beginning of the day and be like, all right, cool, and then just mail it in for the rest of the day, because then you're going through and you're still, your third eye, which is your mind, is recording everything around you if you know it or not. So if you're not in control of it, if you're in autopilot all the time, guess what? You are just being led by everything you're seeing and what everybody else is saying. Remember, you hear that if you don't believe in anything, you'll fall, or if you don't stand for anything, you're going to fall. If you stand for nothing, you're going to fall for anything. Sorry. So you're just walking around in autopilot, not really thinking about whatever, and next thing you know, you're just all over the place. Well, this person said something cool, I'm going to believe in that. Oh, this person said something even better, I'm going to believe in that now. Oh, this person said something better, I'm going to believe in that. Who are you? Who are you? That's what you need to answer. Who are you? But listen, it's your boy Big J Britt, JTC, on the move. Always check me out on Facebook, Jimmy Britt. Check out JTC Sports Talk with a Fake Twist. Still figuring out the technology part, how to post these on the one page and share it on the other. I don't know. But check out my YouTube channel. It'll be linked on Facebook, Twitter at Jim Britt Sports. And remember, if you're going to have a conversation, make it a good one. Love y'all. Deuces.